Hey Adam. Um, well, your layout is basically done. All I have left is this one corner, and unfortunately I can't finish it because, well, my shelf is in the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and once we fine-tune everything else and make sure everything else is up to what you need it to be, I'm going to go ahead and take apart the layout, and I will put the risers in that one last section afterwards. So everything is pretty well top-notch and polished off. I'm going to duck under here real quick. One of the things I have yet to do is install the hardware to secure the gate. I'm not going to recommend that you use the gate every single time you enter and exit the layout, just because of the sharp angles and multiple track locations. Keeping everything lined up is just going to be an absolute nightmare. What I am going to recommend, however, is leave it open while you're building the rest of the layout. And once you start operating the layout, just go ahead and leave it closed and duck under. It's only 18 inches wide or 20 inches wide. I don't remember the number at the moment, but it's fairly narrow, so it's easy to get underneath. As we go along here, I'll grab my tape measure. So here, got 9 1/4. So keep in mind that I'm actually measuring to the bottom of the plywood instead of the top, because of the plywood surface that's on this lower deck here. So the lower deck surface is actually 0. So, for example, I'll come over here. On top of the deck, I go to 9 1/4 right at the top. I left the area open as wide as I could. I did test that area previously, and you can get 3 tracks in there with 2-inch spacing, which for your purposes should be plenty. I did cut out this area here as per the plans, so you have access to the upper area if you should need it. I should also note that this entire upper section on the center is secured with screws. So you can actually remove the top deck while you put the lower track in place. And if you really wanted to, you could actually put all the track on the upper deck and then put all the tortoise switch machines or whatever you're using in place before you actually secure the surface back down to where it was. So we're fairly open. I kind of feel like I wasted my time drilling a lot of holes because a lot of this bench work is so far over it, you're going to be able to float all the wires over the framing, but you know, it's there if you need it. We got the ramp going down here. I did not cut out the turntables as we discussed earlier, mostly because, you know, if I cut it 1/8 off from what your actual turntable is, and manufacturers do vary quite a bit, that could be a big deal. However, I did mark it. I marked the center as well as the perimeter, so you have a good idea of where it should land. And coming over here, the ramps all have pretty good clearance. This one is 3.5 exactly at the moment. And then obviously we've got one going down, one going up, and then one kind of meandering along the way underneath here. So this area over here, as per your line drawings, that back corner is pretty well level with enough room to get a track in there right here. Moving on. I took careful attention to make sure that the top plywood surface lined up with the bottom. So when you do finally get done, you can go ahead and put your fascia on here and you should be able to secure it directly to the plywood surface, or maybe add a couple little screw blocks depending on your preference. And everything should line up and be finished off very well. This corner module, I had no idea, but it is the most complicated piece on your entire layout, and it took me the better part of about 4 days to figure it out. So down here, we're going to show you the clearance. I got 3 3/4 on that end, and then on the far end, this is the area we discussed previously. You can see that the clearance is quite tight, but I did go ahead and move the plywood, so we've got 3 1/4 inches of clearance here. You do have the option as well. You'll notice that there's a little screw plate in here. This block is just screwed in place. So if you do need to cut it back, all you gotta do is pull out the couple screws and the whole thing will come out, so you can go ahead and trim that with your table saw. Everything else otherwise has fantastic clearances. Again, there's your turntable drawn in place. Center is marked, however I did not cut it out. And I tried to keep it as clean as humanly possible. There's a little jog down here. That is because your turntable is just on the other side of it, and I actually had to trim away about half of the cross member there. I wanted to make sure they had adequate strength, so I went ahead and made it a little thicker in that area. Otherwise, it's completely ready to rock and roll. Your layout is pretty well done. Now, I understand that you're going to support some of this layout via the wall, via shelf supports or something like that. I believe it was this back area here. Obviously, you're more than welcome to do that. I'm going to go ahead and include the legs anyway. I do recommend that you install them temporarily, at least until you get the shelf brackets installed and get the supports set in place so everything sits flush, level, and the way it should be. But otherwise, congratulations. You have quite literally the most complicated layout I have ever built, but it was a pleasure. It was a ton of fun to build, and I'm really looking forward to the next one I get a chance to build. Again, like I said, this last corner is all that's left, and I can't do it because my shelf is in the way. I ran out of room. So I've got a 22-foot deep garage and a 21-foot long layout inside of it. And well, it's been fun. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to start packing up your layout here soon. I still need to cut down the legs, the 4 inches that we had discussed earlier, to get the height down to 44. And then I'm also going to be installing shelf pins, or alignment pins rather, at all of the joints. So everything should line up pretty easily. You just push the 2 pieces together, the pins will push it into the correct position, and then you just secure the joint with screws. So, congratulations, and I'll talk to you later.